Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Music Matters Academy. Jasper Donat here, live from Singapore. I'm home. I made it back, and glad to have everyone back for the Academy. As a reminder, this is a series of virtual events designed to help everyone build a foundation for musicians and next-gen music business leaders to learn and upskill in the music business through the mentorship and knowledge sharing of some of the world's best known global music industry icons. And we got a real thrill for you today. But this is the business of music taught by the music business. Our first six modules, have covered publishing, digital platforms, getting noticed, artist management, production, and the crazy, crazy world of NFTs. Plus we've been watched by over 70,000 people so far, and we were live IRL here in Singapore in November as well, which was a lot of fun. Today we have two sessions. The first is all about synchronization and the art of getting your music into films, into television and advertising. And then later today we're talking sponsorship and endorsement and brands under the theme of brands, bands and fans. So you get your chance to meet with the marketing director of Vans, plus Fuse ad agency, and Google and Universal Music. And the speakers today are all coming from all over the world. The content is virtual, it's live, and it's fireside. So please, 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 we want you to be involved and we want it to be interactive. So if you've got any questions, get them in, put them in the chat box. If you're on Bizzabo, in the chat box there, if you're on YouTube, in the chat box, LinkedIn chat box, and we will get them to the speakers. Also, there is, as ever, awesome. After each session, we have the meet the speakers. So if you have to be registered, you have to be on Bizzabo. Go back into the agenda, just click on the session, and you can come in and you can ask them anything you want, and hopefully they'll answer everything you want. But if you want to, for this session, synchronization, you really want to understand how to get your music into a Coke commercial, into a Hollywood movie, a Bollywood movie. That's your chance. So do stick around after, and you can meet the speakers. Finally, as you will have noticed, the Academy is live and it's free. That's 100% thank you to our wonderful, wonderful, wonderful sponsors. So as ever, please show your support for YouTube, for Believe, for Eureka, for Dolby and Steinberg Protocol. And thank you for joining. Please enjoy, please learn, and don't forget to get those questions in. Up first today is Sync Matters. And so please do welcome live to the Music Matters Academy, a very old friend of Music Matters, the founder and CEO of the Sync Summit, the wonderful Sync Summit, Mr. Mark Freezer, who's going to be hosting this session. Mark, hello, good morning, good night. Where in the world are you today?
Right now, I'm in my basement in the foothills of the Appalachians. So I'm here on a, gosh, what evening is it? Wednesday evening here, Thursday morning in Singapore. Certainly wish I was in Singapore, but I'm delighted to be here with everybody virtually. So thank you for having us here, Jasper, and it's great to see you.
Yeah, no, well, I wish we were all live in person, but maybe we will later on this year. Now, you have, I know you're going to be hosting this summit. We got this session. We got two amazing speakers joining you, but you have a rather large event going on next week, don't you? So please tell us a little bit more about it.
Yes, we have an event next week. It's our, can you believe it? It's our 10th year doing this. It's called Sync Summit, and Sync Summit is a 4-day virtual event that brings speakers in from all over the world who are involved in connecting music to television, film, advertising, games, brands, and interactive platforms and social media. So all the major decision makers in this field from across the world will be there. Everybody from people who are based in Japan, like the head of Coca-Cola Japan's content marketing, to many music supervisors across television and film and advertising here in the United States, in Latin America, and in Europe, and in other Asian countries. And the goal of the event is to bring people together so that they can network with each other. And we spend a lot of time on connecting people, and also so that you can learn what the best practices are on every aspect of music, from production to back office issues such as metadata and legalities, so that you can position yourself to have your music listened to by decision makers and get the music into a film, a TV show, or other projects.
Fantastic. And you have, as you can see, we've the little URL down there at the bottom. You have a special deal for our Music Matters attendees, don't you? Please give us some more information.
Yes, this is something we're not doing for anybody else. We're giving a half-off rate to everybody that is attending this session. If you want to register for our event, the cost is $99 US instead of the standard rate of $199 US. So if you're interested in that after this session, or if you're interested in going and checking it out right now, just follow that link and you'll get that discount.
Fantastic. syncsummit.com/MM12. That 12 stands for half, by the way. So Mark, we'll chat about it after the session. Good to see your dog has joined as well.
Of course.
It's over to you for the Sync Matters, and thank you again for joining.
Absolutely, Jasper. Thank you for having us. Okay, everybody, so we're going to talk about the business of synchronization, and I'm going to bring on my fellow panelists, people to chat with in a moment. I say people to chat with because I consider them my friends rather than being so formal as saying that they're panelists, but they are industry professionals. But before we start, I want to just define for everybody what the term synchronization is, because people talk about what syncs are, and you need to know this is like the bottom building block. A sync is a synchronization of a piece of audio, meaning a piece of music, with a video or an interactive element, which can be a story, it can be an ad, it can be a game, it can be something that's going with a branded campaign, an app, or an online service. So with that said, we're going to talk a little bit about what are the things that you need to do in order to position yourself for success within this industry and have decision makers hear your music. Okay, so with that, let's bring on our other speakers in this hour, Patty and Sam.
Hello.
Hola, Mark.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. So we've got Patty Carrera from Control Freaks. Hey, Sam. And Sam Parvin from Parvin Music. They are both music supervisors, and one of them focuses primarily on ads and brands. That's Sam. And the other one, Patty, she focuses primarily on television and film. Okay, so that's the extent of my introduction. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves? Patty, you go first.
Awesome. So I am from Mexico City. Currently, I say hello from the Canary Islands. I'm spending some time here. But I do work in Mexico and in some productions in the United States. As you said, I do most of all movies and series for distributors, digital distributors like Amazon, HBO, Netflix. But I also do a lot of licensing and supervision for documentaries and small projects like educational tools and these kind of audiovisual media that organizations use with social objectives. So this is my main area. Mm-hmm.
So you cover a lot of ground in terms of creative storytelling and how you connect music to it.
Yes,
we'll talk
and
more
in
about
terms
that.
of budgets as well.
Well, we'll get into that too.
Yes, I work in those both like sides of the spectrum.
Excellent. And Sam, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm a little more specialized than I think a lot of music supervisors that you'll find. More specialized than Patty and Mark. I work only in advertising, and I currently do all of the work globally for Maker's Mark Bourbon. I have several projects going for Grupo Modelo in Mexico, which owns Corona Beer and Victoria, Pacifico, several others. I do some work for an insurance company. Right now I'm doing a project for a car company. I do some Procter and Gamble work. So really, I did a lot of work for the Coca-Cola company for a long time, and yeah, so focusing on music for advertising and film and or advertising, and I really focus on working directly with brands as much as possible to really help them use music in a strategic way that's going to help build their brand, versus kind of just like putting a piece of music in a spot just because it needs music. So that's me. Oh, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia in the United States, and I live in Playa del Carmen, Mexico.
Awesome. One of the
Because
most beautiful
if you
places.
have to live, if you can live in a beach, do go and live in a beach.
¿Por qué no? Yeah, why wouldn't you
not?
live in a beach if you can?
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, and just to round this out, to give everybody a little bit of an introduction of what I do when I'm not running the Sync Summit. The other job that I have is what's called a sync agent. And what a sync agent does is a sync agent works between a music supervisor and, let's say, a record label or an artist, helping to connect that music to projects. Because of that, we need to be experts in terms of, I would say, a lot of things, but understanding legalities of deals, understanding how to respond to people's requests in terms of budget, in terms of timelines, and also knowing when to present music and when not to present music. So I hope that our perspectives are able to give you a good idea of what this industry is. I think they will. All right, so let's just have a conversation, right? When I think about this part of the industry, it's something that a lot of people look at like it's alchemy. It's like, what is sync exactly? How does this work? How do I connect my music to a music supervisor? I mean, there's a bit of a process and an art in doing it, but why don't we start with something really big? What's the most important thing to you as a music supervisor when it comes to your working with somebody on a long-term basis or working with their music in general?
That they actually have their ducks in a row, that they know exactly who controls what. If they control both sides, publishing and master, better. One stop, the words one stop are super sexy, so it's always good to work with people who control both master and publishing. But yeah, most like there's nothing more frustrating than finding a song and won't be able to sync it, license it because you can't find a writer, or or it has a sample that you didn't know about or something like that. So for me, the most important thing is that they are reliable sources of music that I can actually license.
That legally they can tell you exactly what you need to know about the legal piece. Yeah, for me, it's actually, I mean, that is obviously extremely important. For me, though, it's probably more so that people can respond to the brief creatively well. Because in advertising, like Patti might be doing a TV series and she might need, I don't know, 50 cues of music, 50 pieces of music. So for her, she's not going to go chase down all of the legal pieces. For me, I'm looking for one piece of music for 30 seconds usually. So like we'll have time for the legal stuff, like to figure out the legal stuff. But I might need to listen to 300 songs before I find something that I can even share with my client. So for me, it's people being able to creatively hear my brief and send me stuff that works for the way that I'm communicating it. Yeah.
I think
Which
that these
goes
answers.
into what Mark had mentioned before about being knowing when to send music and knowing when to like not send music. If you don't have something that's going to work for the brief, you can just say, I don't have anything for this brief. Please consider me for the next project, so that I'm not listening to 10 pieces of music that have nothing to do with my brief,
Great. And I think that these answers are really interesting because on one side, there's all of what I call the back office issues, which are making sure that you understand what the right situation is with your music, making sure you know who owns it, making sure that you can present the music and do a deal. And then the other side of it is this the right music creatively for this brand, for this project, for this story that's being told? Those are two things I think are very, very important for people to consider. But one of the things that I'd like to do is just back up a little bit and just let's talk a little bit about how the process works before we get to briefs, because I feel like we might be talking a little bit over everybody's heads right now. So let's bring them up to speed. Basically, I think when people think about this industry, the first thing they ask is, well, who do I send my music to? Or who are these people that make the decisions? I've heard of music supervisors, but what exactly is the role of a music supervisor? And how can I possibly figure out how to connect my music to them?
Yeah.
And how do we find music? Because sometimes, like, you can send emails with the information of your tracks, but then there is this other part that is the way that we naturally find music. So it's really interesting. Like, if you want to connect to a music supervisor, best thing to do is just to find an email and then send a link to your music to stream your music, and try to fill the email with words that help the supervisor find you. Think about, in a year from now, the supervisor is not going to listen to your song right away, but when the opportunity comes, he's going to look, or she's going to look on the search bar of the email for terms, right, of the kind of music, the genre, the style, the instrumentation, the region, the when was it released, for example. So you want, it's like feeding a database that the supervisor is going to use when the opportunity comes, and it can come in a year, in a month, in 3 years. You don't know. That's why the link can't expire as well. So I think that is this side of how to send music to a music supervisor. And then we find music in so many other ways.
Yeah. So just to kind of emphasize what Patty's talking about, like if you send me if you want me to listen to your music, you can send it to my email. I will probably just open the email, see that there's a link in there. I'm probably not going to listen to it at the moment unless there's something that sparks me and it happens to have to do with the project I'm working on. I want to see that your email says, I have, vintage 60s and 70s French pop. Like that's the kind of stuff you want to put in there. You don't want to put like, I have this great song, that would work perfect in a car commercial. Like, don't say that, because you don't know what would work in a car commercial, or like we don't know what the car commercial is going to be about. Talk about your music and as objectively and descriptively as you can, and just keep it like very, a few details. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that email. I might respond to you depending on what mood I'm in that day or how much time I have. I might just say like, thanks, I'll keep you, like, I'll let you know when I have a project, or I might not respond, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to listen to it. And I have a folder in my Gmail that's called music. And then I just put your email in there. And when I need music, I'm going to go look for it. So you want there to be those words that I can search for. And also in the title of the email, something that's going to make me know what's inside that email. And then the music that you send in that email is a link, preferably to something that, well, definitely to something that never expires, because again, I might not listen to it for a year. And preferably that I can download it right there. So like, preferably you're not going to send me a Spotify link, because like if I find a song I like and I want to synchronize it to a video, I need to be able to download and have that song file. So it would be via Disco or Dropbox, something like that. I mean, you could do like we transfer if you need to, but Disco or Dropbox is really good for me. Yeah, I mean, I prefer not we transfer. Dropbox is free. Just get a Dropbox account if you need to. Yeah.
I would go away from WeTransfer because the links expire. And we have some questions here that I'm going to get to in a second. But I want to just basically go through the real 101 experience here, because I feel like we're talking at like the 201, 301 level on a lot of this stuff.
Okay.
So let me just do that for a second. Basically, what you need to do, first of all, is you need to make sure that your music is as well mastered and produced and mixed as possible. Make sure you have high quality in terms of what you're going to send out. Make sure that it's an MP3 that's high quality. Then make sure that you know exactly what the songwriters were. You should, if it's one of your songs, but you know who the songwriters are. Make sure that you own the master, or someone else owns the master with you, gives you the right to promote it. Then make sure that you fill in the metadata in the MP3. This is something that Patty and Sam and I go over a lot, because if you don't do that right, nobody's ever going to listen to your music, because they can't find you, they can't pay you, they don't know what it is. So you need to put metadata into your MP3, and this is something that we'll talk about.
I stopped listening to Mark.
You stopped hearing him.
It always happens like that. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm back. Okay, great. I'm so sorry about that, everybody. Just give me a second here while I check exactly what's going on here. I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, you should be able to hear me okay now.
Yeah, we can hear
just give me a second. Oh, wow, that is weird.
Yeah, it's coming out of your computer now, isn't it? Because I can hear myself.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Can you hear me now? Yeah?
Yeah, we hear you, but it's just going through your computer. Can you put headphones? Your headphones aren't working?
Yeah, I'll just keep going right now, okay? So let's just keep going.
Yeah.
If we have a little echo, that's fine. So basically, what I was saying is that the next step is that you have your metadata put together, and then from there, what you need to do is you need to think to yourself, who can I connect my music to that would actually want to use it, or what projects are there out there that I would like to connect it to? Maybe it's Patty's projects, maybe it's some of Sam's brands, whatever it is. Go out and research on LinkedIn, research on social media, research on tunefind.com, which is a great resource, IMDb, and try to find these people and who they're working with. And then try to make contact with them. See if you can find their emails. I know that sounds a little stalky, but you have to kind of do that.
It's so easy to find people's emails these days, though. Like, it's amazing.
And if you can't find their emails, usually they're on social media. So you can send them a DM with your music. And when you do that, you need to send them a very short, "Hi, how are you? I'd like to connect you to my music. Here's a link to," I would say, 3 songs maximum. And then once you've sent that out, let it go. So now I've given you 5 minutes of the 101 of the industry. Okay, so now we can get into more of the minutia of the things that we really need from people. But before that, let's take some questions. Okay, so we've got lots of questions here, guys. And yes, please send us your questions if you have them. Okay, so a question from Blake. In your opinion, everybody, what is the potential for my music in the USA or other countries if I'm based in Asia? No matter where I'm based in Asia, what do you think?
If I'm based in Asia.
Yeah, or other countries for that matter.
I don't know, Maddie. What do you think?
We're like...
Hey, guys, I'm just going to interrupt a little bit here. Mark, we're having a little bit of trouble with your microphone. So we're going to whisk you into the little back room and sort your internet out. And
There
I
you go.
will ask the questions because I genuinely don't know the answers. So I'm very interested. So yeah, Blake has asked, what's the potential for getting my music into the US or other countries? Is it easy?
Okay. Well,
Patty?
Listen, we have talked about this
Okay.
so
I'm back
so
now.
many times. Yeah, cool.
Keep going, Patty.
So many times. And how many songs do we listen to choose just one for one scene? Or how many songs can Sam listen to choose the one for the commercial? In the case of music for movies and series, we're talking about 50, 80 songs. It could go up to 150. And sometimes when we go to our reliable sources to ask for music, between all of the people that are listening to music for this scene, it can go to 200 songs. So your odds are 1 to 100, 1 to 200. In the case of advertising for Sam, it's even worse, I think.
So keep
It's
keep
probably
trying.
about 1 in 200. It's probably
So
about
keep-
1 in 200.
So keep on
I
trying,
mean,
right?
yeah, I mean, you know, I could also say like I did a project earlier this year where we listened to a ton of music. Like the client had an idea of a famous song they wanted to use. We were going to make a new recording of that song. And then we were like, it was like really expensive. We weren't really sure if it was the perfect song. We listened to a gazillion other songs. In the end, we came back to that song. We licensed that song. We did a new interpretation of it. And the composer that I hired, or that who like won the new master recording of it, I had never worked with before, and he got a check for $70,000. Like, and we had never, I mean, it was like we'd never worked with each other before. He was recommended to me by a friend and he won the job, so it can be like that, or it can be like, 200 to 250 songs I'm listening to for a 30-second piece of music or 15-second piece of music, and I don't do nearly as many placements as Patty does a year. I do 8, maybe 10.
Yeah, that's when it starts to get interesting, because I'm working on a series that will probably have, I don't know, 80 tracks on the series. And I've done movies with 40 tracks, 35 tracks. I've also done movies with 4 tracks. But then I have so many projects every year, so then it compensates a little bit. But we don't want to burst the bubble, like, oh, then it does, like, it's not worth it. No, it is. Because so many people just don't know how to be ready to be synced. This is the problem that we face.
Yeah.
And someone is asking, what is the biggest need in the sync industry? Well, the biggest need is for people who actually can license, have their metadata in order, are ready when your door finally, when your doorbell
When they knock
finally
at the door.
rings. Yeah, when they knock the door, you have to be ready. And then how to approach music supervisors. Nobody knows how to do it. And the ones that actually do, they don't get the information, the correct information, or the correct, metadata or the files. They're just not ready. So we have to erase so many emails and so many links from Disco. So you do have a chance if you do your homework and if you understand this, then you get ahead of the line. And
there's more music being synchronized than ever before now. There, with how many projects there are in the world, it's just like kind of a numbers game. You just need to be in the right place at the right time. And so the more that you get out there and the more that you kind of get what music supervisors want to be delivered, the better your chances. I do want to mention something about the, like having all the right information. It's also very necessary to have instrumental versions of your music, and preferably all of the stems. You don't need to send us the stems, but have them available. I recently worked with a well-known music manager in Mexico who has some really great music, really great bands. I had 6 songs of his that I wanted to pitch. and he didn't have instrumentals for any of them. So I didn't pitch any of his songs because I knew I had to have an instrumental version of that song. So have instrumentals.
Okay, I'm going to now. Mark is back. I'm going to disappear. However, there is one question I want to ask, and I wanted one shout out because we have a question from Mr. Ted Cohen, who is one of the best known people in the global music business, who's tuning in live, I think, from LA. And he's asked, and so Mark, I'm going to ask his question to you, Mark. How important is it to have a dedicated sync agent? And with that, I'm going to leave it to you to answer. But thank you for your question, Ted. Lovely to see your name. Over to you, Mark.
Okay, thanks Jasper for coming in on my when my Bluetooth went bad. Yeah, so to answer that question, I mean, I'm sure we all have our own takes. My take on it is, yes, you should have a dedicated sync agent. But you should also educate yourself in how to work with that sync agent and how to work in general. You need to know how the industry works and how to deliver and how to partner with that sync agent so that they can bring your music out to the people that they serve. And that to me is key. But yes, I think that everybody should have a sync agent because good sync agents, they don't cost you anything unless you get a deal, then they take a percentage. And the other side of it is that because they're sync agents, every day they're working with music supervisors. They understand legal, they understand budgets, they understand the person that they're talking to and their projects. Like, I know how Gary Calamar works versus how Patty works. They work differently. In some ways they work similar, but I know what projects he's working on. He has different projects than Patty does. So if Patty asked me for something, I'd say, okay, I understand what she's working on right now. And being able to work with somebody who has that knowledge and those contacts helps you to be in a better position. So yes, of course you should do that. But at the same time, having a sync agent doesn't mean that you can't pitch music yourself or make connections with music supervisors. You can do both.
And the agent is going to need your knowledge as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know anything about it, then it's going to be super difficult for the agent to represent you. So, yeah.
I mean, that's like, it's like having a job. I mean, like any job, you think about having any job. If you were to, you hire somebody to work for your company and you don't know anything to tell them about how to do their job, like you have to have that information. Like, I think this is kind of a misstep that a lot of artists do is they're just like, I'm an artist. I don't need to deal with any of that. And it's like, well, until you get to a certain level in your career where you're paying somebody $150,000 a year to manage everything for you, then you do need to know about it. And it's just going to make it, like your results even more powerful when you have the knowledge and information and you have somebody else working with you. Excuse me, it just started raining. I need to close my door.
Okay. I couldn't agree with you more, Sam. Having that knowledge is key. Being able to understand how to work with different people in the industry is key. And I also think one of the things that we need to touch upon on this, and then I'll get to the next question, Patty, is that people need to have an attitude of being of service. I was just saying, Sam, people need to have an attitude of being of service to a music supervisor. Because if you think, what does the music supervisor need, rather than saying, I've got the best music and the music supervisor needs to hear it and they need to use it, you're going to be able to be more successful in this industry. Okay, so saying that, my question is, would you both agree, and how should people position themselves to be of service to a music supervisor?
I think just
I totally agree.
Yeah, just listen to what we say. Like, be open enough to believe that the music supervisor knows what he wants. I have talked to so many artists that tell me, oh yeah, I read your brief for this scene, but I think this song would be so much better than what you're asking for. And it's like, okay, but I am the supervisor. I talked to the director. We decided this like with a bunch of people who are always trying to decide, and then the artist is going to tell me what they think that is going to be better for the scene. It doesn't make sense.
Game
So
over.
game over. So from that sense, like, believe that we are asking for certain type of music for a reason, and then when we give you an advice like this, have an open mind to say, okay, maybe they are right, since we are the ones that receive the music, and we are going to ask you for things that we are certain that we're going to need in a legal way. Even if you don't deliver that, and if you don't believe us, then it's going to be super difficult. So yeah, have an open mind.
Sam?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think there's two things. One is, yeah, being a service. So just like asking yourself, like, is this what this person needs from me? You know, and if you're not sure, you can ask, you know, and they'll give you that information if they're available, interested, you know, I mean, they'll give you that information if they want to, I guess, you know, or we will give you that information if we want to. I'm very open about, I'm going to tell you exactly how I want things. I don't think you should have to guess, because every music supervisor is different. Right. But one thing I do see is, well, two things. One is that people will want to have calls with me to introduce themselves and stuff. And I need to listen to your music first, because first and foremost, the most important thing is to have good music and good quality music, you know. And I just, again, I don't do a lot of projects a year and stuff. And especially if you're just pitching, if you're a composer, okay, at some point I'm going to have a phone call with you, because we might want to create something together and I need to know your skills and knowledge and expertise. But if you're just pitching already existing songs to me, we don't need to have a 30-minute phone call for me to, you know, so just send me your music and just say, like, you know, I'm available if you need anything else from me, kind of thing. And if for some reason I want to have a call with you, then we'll do that, you know. So that's one thing, like not asking for extra time if it's not really necessary. And then two is like, know your worth too, because we don't have jobs without music. We need your music. So sometimes I'll have people send me like a 4-paragraph email and I'll read the whole thing. And then the last thing they'll say, you don't have to listen to my music if you don't want to. And I'm just like, no, of course. That's what I came here for. That's what I want. I want to listen to your music, you know? Or they'll be like, oh my God, I don't want to bother you. I'm so sorry. It's like, just know your worth. Get me your music. That is what I want. And I don't need a whole lot of the other stuff. But I do want your music. And I'm going to listen to it when it makes sense for me, you know? So like, know that we need what you have.
And also, in the first email, just send the music. Don't ask, can I send you my music?
Yeah, just send the music.
Send the link.
Totally.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to a few more questions here. Next question is from Ivan Escobar. He's asking it from YouTube. So, hi, Ivan. What are, in your opinion, the biggest needs that the sync industry currently has? I mean, that's almost a philosophical question, but go ahead, Patty.
Yeah, like a few minutes before I was talking about what we need is people who actually know what they're talking about and that can license music correctly and know their, you know, right holders and information that we need, all the numbers, registrations, metadata, everything. Like we actually need people that know what they are doing. But if you're referring to the biggest needs in terms of genres or types of music, all kinds
I'm not
of
really
music are needed.
sure.
Projects.
Let's talk about it from both sides, because I think he's asking, like, what are the biggest needs in terms of the types of music or the kinds of music? So let's say that, because then the other side of it, I think we've talked about. But I mean, you know, it really depends on the project, right?
Yeah, but
I think just
from
authentic, interesting, good, you know.
Yeah.
I know that doesn't make much. I mean, and authentic and interesting could be anything, but like, I think the tone of voice for the world right now is a little bit more intimate and purposeful and do good and stuff, than it used to be. Like, I think there used to be, I think music was a lot more trendy. Like the music that would get, especially in advertising, it was like way more trendy. Like, I mean, the number of female vocal ukulele pieces 10 years ago is just like, I mean, don't send me another ukulele, but now I think it is more varied and, every, we're talking about individualism a lot more. And so I think it's really just a big variety and just good, interesting music that says something.
Okay, so he's writing again, Ivan Escobar, and he's saying, in terms of what is not fulfilled for you as professionals in the sync industry. Okay, I think that systems that can standardize the management of metadata.
Yeah, exactly. Automating metadata. Right? That's it.
That would be so
I want to create that myself because that is the biggest problem we have. Okay, you really want to know? This is what we like if we're sitting around with some mezcal, it's just the three of us, we're going to talk about how bad metadata is. And it's not it's not focusing on anyone. It's people at the major labels and it's artists who are just starting out. Everybody's metadata doesn't work. It's PROs, it's everywhere. It's all messed up. I have to go and research everything because I can't rely on anyone's metadata. That's the problem.
I know.
Blockchain.
Well, yes, blockchain, but there's so many pieces that we have to piece together. Like all of these actors in the industry that you have mentioned, labels, publishers, PROs, artists, Disco, Spotify, YouTube, everyone is handling metadata as they want. CD Baby, every aggregator. So there's so many people that have to come together at some point and say, stop this madness, please.
It's a tower of Metababel. I mean, it's like, and there's no standardization. There's no automation. It's a mess. So that's our biggest problem. Okay, next question from
We've got a
Jamie.
bunch of questions here.
Yep, let's get Jamie McManus next. Yes. Interested to hear about any thoughts on emerging practices or technologies that might facilitate a better way of connecting artists and music supervisors. Well, I'm interested in that too, Jamie, but I will tell you a couple just off the top of my head. You can go to syncfloor.com. That's a really interesting company that's doing things that use AI to help to categorize and bring music up that is not easily found. Another one that I think is interesting is based in Singapore, and Hazel Savage is a friend of all of ours, musio.com. Musio is doing some really interesting work. Also, there's a couple of other companies, aims.api and MyPart are also companies that are doing interesting work to help to bring music that may not be known up to the surface as either original tracks or replacement tracks for music that people can't license for one reason or another. But that's really just scratching the surface. I mean, I hate to say this,
Disco
but
Disco has a new library that we can access. Disco.ac is a really good tool to manage metadata as well and files. And they also have a library, and it's really practical as well.
Absolutely. And if you want to learn more about all of this, it's going to be at our Sync Summit. And I don't mean to plug it, but basically, all the people from Disco and all these other tech companies are going to be there. So if you really want to dig deep, you can go to the summit and meet all of these people and talk to them one-on-one. All right. So with that said, I'm really looking forward to seeing what more is coming out in terms of technology, because it's very exciting. But the biggest problem is, and I don't mean to take up too much time with this, the biggest problem is making it interesting enough from a business perspective for a music supervisor to use it. And Patty, you and I have gone back and forth. We've looked at tons of demos together and we're like, this isn't really worth my time. And then they're asking me that I have to drill down my searches. It's like, forget that. I'm going to go make a phone call. Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
we're not really there yet.
Totally. But until we get there, the responsibility, where does it rely, the responsibility? You know what? On the artist, on the creator.
On the artist.
Yeah. So you have to be the first one to get the information clear, the metadata, and then to supervise that everyone is using the same information. The distribution platform, if you have a disco, everywhere, you should supervise that. So this is the only way to do it until we have the tools. AI. At some point, there is going to be an AI that will, handle it. But
Exactly. And another thing that I'll say is that this is when a sync agent can be useful for you. Now, sync agents, they will pitch your music to music supervisors, the reputable ones, without asking for money. And they'll also look at your metadata. But if you want them to actually do your metadata, you'll probably have to pay them like a fee, because that is it's a little complicated. But what a sync agent will do is they'll look at your metadata and tell you if it's right or wrong, and you need to go back and fix it because they know what they're doing. So that's another resource you have. Okay, let's go to our next question. Okay, Masia Lim. There are producers and musicians that make music for sync deals to build up categories tailored for placements. What are some trends and common asks you see happening in the industry right now? I'll put that to you, Sam. What do you think?
Producers and musicians that make music for sync deals to build up catalogs tailored for placements. Yeah. So she means what are clients asking
music,
for?
Yeah. What kind of bespoke music are they asking for?
These producers. Honestly, my clients, we do a lot of bespoke music. We do a lot of music created for the project. Even for some reason, like even though we could find music that would work well for their spots that are already, produced and available in catalogs, my clients want to do original stuff. In Mexico, it's more of a usage rights thing because they want to have broader usage rights, or the possibility of relicensing over a period of time, which you can do when you create a new piece of music, for a project. In the US, it's really just because they want the music to fit perfectly. Well, I mean, and I work on some pretty higher profile projects, but yeah, I mean, again, I think just even outside of my projects for the catalog type music that you're talking about, I just think I'm always looking for stuff that's special. Like if I hear it and it sounds like I've heard it a bunch of times, it's just not going to catch my ear. And I'm always looking for something a little bit special to share with my clients, so if you're just like banging out pieces of music and just to have music done, there's a lot of music out there that's already done like that. What do you guys think? I know that's not very specific, but
well, I was just looking at the second part of her question. For example, I've noticed an increase of requests for English, Mandarin, hip hop songs. Like, I'll just address this for a second. Is that, trends and common asks, there's a lot of stuff out there. You can say, Japanese English songs or Korean English songs for K-pop productions. There's a lot of different things like that, Mandarin English, because it'll have a greater appeal. And then you have things where it's like a mood. Okay, we'd like to hear dark covers. Okay, that's something we always hear, dark reimagined covers. But now I'm actually hearing from music supervisors, we want happy reimaginations of covers because we're sick of dark reimaginations. And honestly, I am sick of hearing everybody wants to rule the world or mad world done dark again. So we do need to have new things. But really, it's hard for me to say there's a long-term trend, because what happens is that the creativity follows the creativity. The creativity of what is being asked for by a music supervisor follows the creativity of the showrunner, the person in charge of a TV show, or the person in charge of a film, the director, or a person or it's usually a few people in charge of the decisions in an ad. So it's hard to say there is one trend that is happening now, but the best thing you can do is to go online, do your research. If you want to make trailer music, go watch a bunch of recent trailers. You'll get an idea of what they're doing. If you want to see what people are doing with, let's say, vampire shows, go watch a bunch of current vampire shows and you'll get to see that's what they're doing. That's the kind of music they use. So my thing is research your target. Get to know what they're doing creatively by researching it. It's hard for me to say, oh, this is going on over here, because in my opinion, in 2 weeks, there's going to be something different. All right, that's what I have to say. Patty, what do you think?
Yeah, well, if I have to talk about a trend, there is this awesome trend that I've been seeing that is like the 80s nostalgia. And it has to do with this generation of economic active people that are consumers, and brands really want to talk to them. The ones that are parenting, so every movie for kids, family movies, they are going into 80s nostalgia. And shows
Or
like
90s nostalgia.
shows like the one that you love, Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai.
Yeah, of course, yeah. It's
love
funny.
Kind of like,
It's a funny show.
retro.
Yeah, that is one thing. You're right, Patty. 90s covers. And I'll tell you
90s
what,
and 80s, yeah.
I have a couple of lists, not a bunch. I have a couple lists that I can give you of 90 songs that have the ability to clear the publishing, and that's super important, that you can use as a basis for making cover songs. So if you come to the summit, I'll give you that list. So there's another incentive.
Yeah, I do want to plug Sync Summit. Guys, literally, Mark and his team, this is crazy. Mark and his team take every person who comes. He has hundreds of speakers and hundreds of people who attend. And they go through, and you get to tell him, who do you want to, right? You're doing this for this one,
Yes,
right,
of
Mark?
course. Yeah, we
You
do
get
it
to
every
tell
time.
him every person that you want to meet. Okay. You say, I want to meet Patricia Carrera. I want to meet Sam Parvin. I want to meet this person. I want to meet this guy from YouTube. And Mark's team matches them and says, okay, well, if Patty wants to meet this guy, then and puts them together, you get actually to meet all of the people that want to meet you, like one by one. It's incredible. Plus, like he said, very in-depth. If you want to nerd out on synchronization, like very in-depth sessions on everything that you're going to want to know about synchronization world from the experts around the world. It's incredible.
And the last thing I'll say before I bring Jasper back is that we also have really cool things like a guy named Steve Smith, who's the founder of Dirty Vegas, whose band was actually made because they had a big sync with a Mitsubishi commercial in 2003. He ended up being a #1 artist, ended up winning a Grammy, ended up being, now he's in Squeeze. All of it because his song was used in a Mitsubishi commercial. So you get to hear really cool stories like that that are actually inspiring for musicians. So anyway, enough about that. I want to bring back our host with the most, Jasper Donut. Jasper, hello. Thank you for having us.
No, this has been brilliant. I'm sorry to interrupt the conversation, but we're running out of time. Look, I mean, I've been writing loads of notes. I love this idea of 80s nostalgia, but does that mean that there was any music after the 80s? Because I've never heard it myself. I thought the music industry stopped at 1989.
You stopped discovering new bands in 1989.
What do you mean? No Hanson? Come on.
Very, very strange. But look, thank you so much for joining. Look, this has been a very, very global panel. I mean, Tenerife to Mexico to New York. We've had dogs, we've had cicadas, we've had microphone issues. I mean, it's the internet. And again, please, anyone who's watching, do join Sync Summit next week. And Mark has given us a 50% discount for all Music Matters attendees. So again, Mark, thank you for that. Now, if
and it'll be fun.
Now, I was going to two more things. Number one, you were talking about email addresses, and so let's start with Patty. Are you happy to give out your email address?
Sure, it's carrera.patricia @gmail.com. I don't know if that makes sense. That is my name, carrera.patricia@gmail.com.
It's worth it just for the accent, Patty. And Sam, what is your email address?
Yeah, mine is my name as well. It's just samparvin@gmail.com. So
you're happy for people. You're happy for people to send. Both of you are happy for people to send you music, right?
Yeah,
Don't
please.
expect an answer.
Brilliant.
Not right
So
away
musicians
but
out there,
we will listen eventually.
Yeah, musicians out there, never ever stop selling, and you've got great opportunities here. So and then the second point is that this is going to continue on, but in a smaller room. So if you're logged into musicmatters.academy, you just go back into the agenda and you'll see there's a Meet the Speakers tab. Just go in there, and then Sam and Patty are going to be there with Mark to answer more questions. So if you've got any more specific questions about you and your music and ideas and stuff, so we'll see you all there. Now we've got limited numbers there as well, so you need to get in there. But Patty, Sam, Mark, thank you. Good luck with the Sync Summit next week, and we'll see everyone backstage in a minute.
Thank you so much for having us, Jasper.
Thank you, Jasper.
Thank you. It was awesome.
Thank you.